Welcome, Mojo Players. Today we are exploring the 10 darkest moments in Zelda games. For this list, we'll be looking at moments in the otherwise whimsical franchise that disturbed or depressed us. We'll be doing our best to stay away from solely creepy moments, as we've already made a list for that. As we're dealing with story elements, a spoiler warning is in effect. Which of these dark moments caught you off guard? Share your memories with us in the comments. Before we begin, we publish new content all week long, so be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. The Loss of Hyrule, The Legend of Zelda, Ocarina of Time. In many Zelda games, when the big bad makes their play for power, the towns and citizens still operate relatively normally. But the same can't be said of Hyrule in Ocarina of Time. Once Link acquires the Master Sword, he's kept in the Sacred Realm for 7 years, and returns long after Ganondorf has taken over the kingdom. Even still, walking out, we were surprised to find the market nearly demolished, with re-deads roaming the streets. Citizens were either displaced, taking refuge at Kakariko Village, or presumably killed. It isn't often a Nintendo game has you lose so spectacularly as a key moment of the plot. Seeing the sheer desolation erased any sense of triumph we had from obtaining the legendary blade. Yetta's Sickness, The Legend of Zelda, Twilight Princess. Yeto and Yetta live in the decrepit Snow Peak ruins, a stronghold whose original inhabitants have long since abandoned it. After Yeto gives a piece of the Mirror of Twilight to his wife, Yetta becomes ill. She's so adorable that we'd want to help her no matter what, so it's a good thing Link collects soup ingredients throughout the dungeon. All seems well when she takes us to the mirror's location. While we expected a boss fight, we had no idea the game was about to hit us with the franchise's biggest jump scare. Turns out, the Mirror of Twilight has corrupted poor Yetta and turns her into the ice boss Blizzetta. This poor lady contracted one seriously awful cold and had monsters invade her home, all because her husband wanted to give her something nice. Accepting Death, The Legend of Zelda, A Link Between Worlds. Towards the end of this 3DS entry, you find out that Hilda, Princess of the Hyrule Mirroring Lorule, was behind the plot to steal your kingdom's Triforce to replace her own. Seeing your home literally and slowly crumble around you will make you do some crazy things. With some help from Link and Ravio, Hilda sees the light. As Link and Zelda return home, she and Ravio await the end of their world. Not only do the two accept their oncoming deaths, but the deaths of all citizens and the future of Lorule. Of course, this didn't happen as Link and Zelda used their own Triforce to wish Lorules back into existence, but even still, it's a bleak moment of accepting a dire fate you cannot change. The ending, The Legend of Zelda, Link's Awakening. With an island full of zany characters, Link's Awakening is one of the quirkier entries in the series. Yet its ending has always left us a little unsettled. After gathering the 8 instruments of the Sirens, Link can wake a mystical deity called the Windfish from its slumber. Sadly, it becomes clear as you get closer to the end that doing this will cause the island and its inhabitants to disappear. You see, the windfish is so powerful, its dreams have come into reality. Every character you've met, every beast you've come across will vanish when you complete the game. But who's to say they weren't real? We couldn't help but feel a little ashamed as Link made it out safely, while everyone else was snuffed out. The Interlopers, The Legend of Zelda, Twilight Princess. No list of disturbing or dark Zelda moments is complete without this horrifying cutscene from Twilight Princess. After freeing Lanayru, the Light Spirit will inform Link on a particularly nasty bit of Hyrulean history. The cutscene details the Dark Interlopers, powerful magic wielders who attempted to take over the Sacred Realm and use the Triforce for their own terrible deeds. It's an artistically interesting way to warn against the capabilities of these interlopers, who became the Twilight people. But we personally could have done without the blank white eyes and the multiple versions of Ilya twirling through the air, laughing creepily. Sometimes we can still hear that laughter when we close our eyes. The Deku Butler's Son, The Legend of Zelda, Majora's Mask. Despite the existential dread the Skull Kid brings upon Termina, most citizens get helped by Link and receive their happy ending. But the Deku Butler is unique in that there's nothing Link can do to ease his sorrow. You first meet him in the swamp's Deku Palace, where he'll lead Link through an obstacle course for a reward. The competitive racer will apologize for his speed, having gotten caught up in remembrance of a son that left home long ago. He appears again during the credits, having tragically reunited with the remains of his son. It seems Skull Kid got to the boy early on, sucking the soul from him and leaving him an empty husk. Having come across him early on and mistaken him for a simple tree, it's a dreadful realization. Girahim's Introduction, The Legend of Zelda, Skyward Sword. For the most part, Skyward Sword is another light-hearted entry full of whimsy. But it seems the game's main villain, Girahim, didn't get that memo. We were first introduced to him inside the Skyview Temple, where he wasted no time getting under our skin. Clearly eccentric and unhinged, his violent dialogue made it clear he was more bloodthirsty than any villain that came before him. Or, at least, more imaginative with his wording. Plus, his unnerving tongue waggle can still make us shiver with disgust no matter how many times we've seen it. His ensuing fight is also oppressive, bearing down on us as he easily blocks most of Link's swings. It was definitely a dark introduction, and one that set Girahim up as a unique antagonist. The Hero's Shade, The Legend of Zelda, Twilight Princess. The Hero's Shade may not seem dark at first. We just thought we were learning awesome sword skills from a cool skeletal warrior. But it's when you take into account who this character is that he becomes a tragic figure. Hyrule Historia revealed that this spirit is Link from Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask. The Hero of Time feels immense regret at not having been able to pass his skills down to someone. We already knew this Link to be an incredibly lonely character. He grew up shunned in the Korok Forest, gave up his childhood to save Hyrule, and lived inside a depressing time loop with no one but a sassy fairy to keep him company. Now we find out he probably died alone and full of regret. Not cool, Nintendo. Not cool. Hyrule's History, The Legend of Zelda, Ocarina of Time. Before Ocarina of Time, and in several entries afterwards, it seemed Hyrule was a pretty just kingdom, a nice place to live outside of the occasional villainous attack. However, there are several moments in the N64 Classic that make it clear Hyrule is far from perfect. The game takes place mere years after a violent war that would claim the life of Link's mother after she narrowly got him to safety. Kakariko Village, founded by the royal family serving Sheikah, holds several secrets that point to the nastier side of the kingdom's rulers. The bottom of the well and Shadow Temple were once torture chambers used by the Sheikah to interrogate Hyrule's enemies. Sure, they're undeniably terrifying locations, but the lore surrounding them make them much more alarming. The Final Hours. The Legend of Zelda, Majora's Mask. Since the premise of Majora's Mask involves a giant moon crashing into Earth and killing everyone, you can bet there are some dark moments as the clock runs down. Everywhere you look, you'll find characters preparing for the end in different ways. The swordsman, who projected confidence, can be found cowering in the back of his school. At the ranch, Crimea plans to let Romani drink the special adults-only milk as she knows it's her little sister's only chance. Anju and her family can also be found there, incorrectly assuming it's far enough from town to spare them. And we're just naming a few. If Ravio and Hilda accepting their fate is dark, then the plethora of unique reactions to the end here is downright devastating.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, there's more where that came from.